Lila Hart thought he was just another cowboy with secrets in his eyes, drifting through. But he was different. This quiet stranger, Cole Rohr, owned every single acre she stood on. She cooked for 30 men, never knowing the man she was about to give a chance to was actually her boss. He was fixing to own her heart, too. This is their story, born from secrets and sealed under the Wyoming sky. Stay with us to see how these two lost souls find their way. Go on and drop your city in the comments so we can see how far this story goes. It all started on a cold and brutal dawn at the Lone Ridge Ranch. The sky over Wyoming was painted steel and amber as Lila Hart stood in the cookhouse doorway. She pulled her shawl tight against the mean November wind coming down from the mountains. 5 in the morning. It had been her rising time for 3 long years now. She had shown up at this ranch with just a bag and a whole lot of heartbreak. Stepping inside, she let the door slam shut. The cookhouse was her sanctuary. It was a long timber building that always smelled like coffee and wood smoke. The big cast iron stove was already humming with heat she had stoked before dawn. A warm kitchen kept folks from asking too many questions. Questions about why a woman, barely 25, was running from her past. Lila did not give answers. She just cooked. Her hands moved like she had been doing this forever, mixing flour, lard, and buttermilk for biscuits. Soon she would have bacon sizzling and gravy thick enough to hold a spoon upright. The ranch hands counted on it, and the boss, Hank Donovan, paid her a fair wage. Lila needed the work more than anything. As she reached for her rolling pin, she heard a sound. It was the slow, steady hoofbeats of a single horse coming up the east road. Lila wiped her floury hands on her apron and peeked through the wavy window glass. She saw a man on a bay horse, a dark shape against the brand-new sun. He sat tall in the saddle like he had been riding for days, with his hat pulled down low. Just another drifter, she reckoned. Men were always passing through, looking for a fresh start. But there was something about this one. Lila could not help but look twice. He moved with a calm stillness, like a man who knew trouble when he saw it. He got off his horse with an easy grace, near the main bunkhouse hitching post. For a moment, he just stood there, taking in the whole ranch yard. His eyes scanned past the barn and the corral, finally landing right on her cookhouse window. Lila jumped back from the window, her heart pounding in her chest. So foolish, he could not possibly have seen her. Through the glass at this distance, not with the sun in his eyes, but something in his stillness made her feel exposed, as if those shadowed eyes had sized her up in a single glance. She turned back to her biscuits, pushing the dough harder than she needed to. That rider was Hank's problem, not hers. Hank would hire him or send him on his way. Leah had 30 men to feed and no time for it. The biscuits were in the oven, the bacon sizzling. As she poured coffee, she heard boots on the cookhouse steps. 3 sharp knocks. Leah froze. The ranch hands never knocked. They just stormed in, loud and hungry. They tracked in Hud and made demands. Knocking was polite and mighty unusual. She wiped her hands on her apron and opened the door. He was a tall fellow, well over 6 feet, with broad shoulders under a canvas coat that had seen better days. His face was weathered and hard, with a day's worth of scruff. Dark hair curled over his collar, but it was his eyes that got her. They were gray as smoke and steady. His intense gaze made her throat go dry. "Morning, ma'am," he said, his voice low and a little rough. "I'm looking for Hank Donovan. Is this his spread?" "It is." Leah kept her hand on the door just in case. "He'll be down from the main house round 6. You looking for work?" "If he's hiring, I am." "We're always short on hands," she said, then wished she'd kept her mouth shut. It wasn't her place. "You'll have to ask him, though. I just cook." A hint of a smile touched his lips. "Then I'm already mighty grateful. It's been 3 days since I had a hot meal." He wasn't begging, just stating a fact, and it made her pause. She should have sent him to the bunkhouse to wait. Instead, she heard herself say, "Coffee's hot. Biscuits will be out in 10 minutes. His eyes widened, a little surprised by the offer. "I'd be much obliged, ma'am. Thank you." She stepped aside and he entered the cookhouse with care. He had the manners of a man who knew he was on someone else's turf. He took off his hat and waited by the door. "Have a seat," Leah said, nodding toward the long wooden table. "I'll get you some coffee." "Name's Cole," he said as she poured. "Cole Rohr." "Leah Hart." She set down the cup. She stepped back, keeping the table between them. You ride in from far off, Mr. Roar? Far enough. He wrapped his hands around the cup, soaking up the warmth. Came down from Montana. Heard there might be work. Any kind of ranch work. I can handle cattle, horses, mending fences. I'm good with a rope and fair with a hammer. Leia watched him. Most drifters were full of hot air. They promised you the moon. But Cole just stated facts, his voice calm and even. He had a quietness about him that just did not match the hard look on his face. Did you run into some trouble back in Montana? She asked, flipping the bacon. His cup stopped halfway to his mouth. What makes you ask that? A man doesn't ride for 3 days straight unless he's running from something. Just time to move on. Leia didn't pry. She understood leaving things behind. She knew all about leaving before memories got too heavy. She pulled the biscuits from the oven. She put 2 golden ones on a plate for him, adding bacon and a big scoop of gravy. Here, she said, sliding him the plate. You look like you need this. Cole just stared at the food. Ma'am, I don't have the money to pay for this. I am not asking for any, Leia said, turning away. Just eat. She heard his fork scrape the plate, and a soft sigh of pure relief. She glanced over to see him eating slowly, making sure not to waste a single crumb. That's the best biscuit I have ever had, he said quietly. No need to flatter the cook. It is just the plain truth, he said, meeting her eyes. You have a gift, Miss Hart. His honesty struck a chord with her. She turned away quickly. It is only flour and lard. Nothing special, Mr. Roar. Then you have never been truly hungry, he replied. His words hung in the air between them. Leia felt his eyes on her, could feel his unspoken questions. What was she running from? The sound of approaching horses saved her from having to answer. It was several riders, and she recognized Hank Donovan's booming voice giving out orders. That is Hank, Leia said. You should talk to him before the crew comes in. Cole stood up. He left a few coins by his clean plate. For the coffee, at least, he insisted. And thank you, Miss Hart, for everything. He settled his hat back on his head. He walked to the door, then paused to look back at her. I do hope I see you again. And with that, he was gone, leaving Leia with the strange feeling that things were about to change. By 6:30, the cookhouse was pure chaos. 30 hungry ranch hands were packed around the tables, all talking at once. Leia moved through the crowd like a professional, refilling coffee cups and serving up more biscuits. She had learned long ago how to set her boundaries and was an expert at dodging a stray hand. Leia, you are a saint, called out Rusty, a gap-toothed wrangler with a loud laugh. Marry me, Leia, hollered Pete, the youngest hand, earning him a laugh and a biscuit to the head. She had to smile. The men were rough, but they knew their place with her. They respected her because she fed them well and because she'd once blackened the eye of a fella who got too fresh. The word got around. Leia Hart was not looking for a husband and would not stand for any foolishness. But when Cole Roar walked in behind Hank Donovan, the entire room went dead quiet for a moment. 30 pairs of eyes sized up the stranger. Hank's voice boomed. Listen up, this here is Cole Roar. I just hired him. On, treat him like any other hand. Teach him the Lone Ridge way. Yes, boss. The men mumbled their agreement, but Leia saw how they watched Cole sit all by himself. They were sizing him up, wondering if the new man would last. She had seen that look before. This ranch sorted men out real fast. New hands either proved themselves or they were gone. Cole caught her eye from across the room and gave a simple nod. She nodded right back. She turned to the gravy, trying to stop her hands from shaking. Get a hold of yourself, she thought. He's just another drifter, gone by spring. But she knew that was not true. She saw how he moved. There was a careful control about him, and she heard the real hunger in his voice over her biscuits. Cole Roar was not just another drifter. She did not know what he was, but she had a scary feeling that he was going to change everything. The day went on like any other. Leia cleaned up after breakfast, set out a simple lunch, and then started on dinner. A big beef stew was on the menu, with plenty of carrots and potatoes from the cellar. She also made 2 apple pies because the hands had worked extra hard. She tried not to think of Cole, but she failed. Every time she looked outside, she saw him working in the corral. He was helping shoe horses or hauling water, moving with a quiet purpose. He never wasted emotion and never complained. The other men seemed to accept him. That was unusual. New hires always got tested, but something about Cole stopped them. He was capable but not cocky. He was alert but not looking for a fight. Or maybe it was just his eyes that seemed to warn, I have seen far worse. By 4 o'clock, the stew was bubbling and the pies were cooling on the windowsill. She was rolling out biscuit dough when the door opened. It was Cole. He stood there with his hat in his hands, looking tired but satisfied with his work. Mr. Rohr, she said, brushing the flour from her hands. Is something wrong? No, ma'am. Hank just sent me for some water buckets for the bunkhouse. They're behind the stove, she said, pointing. As he walked past, she noticed the smell. It was horse and leather and honest sweat. It had been a long time since Leah had been so aware of a man. Cole picked up 3 buckets and started for the door, but then he stopped. Do you always work this hard? He asked her. Leah blinked, surprised. Excuse me? I've been watching, he said. You have been in here since before the sun came up. I will rest when the work's done, she told him. He just smiled. On a ranch, the work is never done. She knew he was right. There was always more work, but it kept her hands busy and her mind quiet. The work kept the painful memories from creeping in. I manage, she told him. Cole watched her for a moment. His gray eyes saw too much. I'm sure you do, he said, but managing and living are 2 different things. Then he walked away, leaving Leah with flour on her hands and an old ache in her heart. Dinner was a rowdy affair that night, as the hands celebrated the end of a hard week. A short workday tomorrow and a full day off on Sunday had them all in high spirits. They talked loudly about riding into Millbrook for a few drinks and some dancing. Leah served the food and cleared the plates, moving through the crowd like a ghost. It was just easier to be invisible, but she could feel Cole's eyes on her all through dinner. He was not staring in a rude way, he was simply watching, truly seeing her, and a part of her did not know whether to hate it or to lean into it. After the men left for the bunkhouse, she faced a mountain of dirty dishes from 30 men. She was up to her elbows in soapy water when she heard footsteps. Need some help? It was Cole. He stood in the doorway with his sleeves rolled up, looking a little uncertain. I have got it, she said. I know you have. The question is, would you take help if someone offered? She turned to face him, water dripping from her fingertips. Why would you offer? Because you fed me this morning. Because you've been on your feet for 13 long hours. He paused. And because you look like you could use a friend in your corner. His honesty caught her completely off guard. He did not seem to want anything from her. I do not need help, Leah said, but her voice was much softer this time. Everybody needs help sometimes. Cole simply picked up a dish towel. I will dry you, wash. We will finish a lot faster. She knew she should say no and keep her distance. But her whole body ached. The thought of finishing early was just too tempting. Fine, she said, but you do not have to. He stood beside her at the sink, close but not too close. I know, I want to. They worked in a comfortable silence, finding an easy rhythm together. Leah washed and Cole dried. The simple act felt strangely comforting, like a distant memory from a lifelong past. How long have you been here at Lone Ridge? Cole asked after a while. 3 years, she answered. Do you like it here? She scrubbed at a pot. It's a calm. Hank is a fair boss. I have a roof over my head. But do you like it? He pressed. She put the pot down hard. What do you want me to say, Mr. Rohr? That I am just thrilled to cook for 30 men 7 days a week? That this was my childhood dream? No, he said gently. He stayed calm. I just want some honesty, Leah. His gentle voice made her turn away. Honest about what? She finally whispered. I needed the work. 3 years ago, I had absolutely nothing, no family, no money. Hank took a chance on me. So I am grateful. This is not the life I wanted, but it is the life I have. Cole asked softly what happened 3 years ago. She knew she should stay quiet, but instead she just said, cholera. That single word held all the pain of losing her entire world in just 6 weeks. I am so sorry, Cole said, and he sounded like he truly meant it. I lost my family to it as well. I know exactly what it is like to be the only one left. Leah stopped everything. When she really looked at him, she saw her own pain in his eyes. She had to swallow hard to ask, "How in the world do you keep going?" "You just do," Cole said. "You take it one day at a time and hold on to good people." "Is that why you are here? Looking for something to hold on to?" He dried the last dish. "Maybe, or maybe I am just tired of running." His honest words cracked something open inside of her. She knew that exhaustion, that feeling of never being able to rest. "Mr. Rohr," she started. "Please," he said gently, "call me Cole." Saying his first name felt personal, and it made her heart beat a little faster. "Why did you really come to this ranch?" she asked. He met her gaze. "I heard it was a decent place, and I am tired of being alone. It is time to stop running and start living. They are not the same thing." A knot of fear she had carried for 3 years began to loosen inside her. They stood there in the quiet kitchen, and she felt a sense of peace. "Thank you for the help," she said softly. "Any time, Laya," he replied. Hearing him say her name sent a dangerous warmth through her, the kind that leads to hope. She put her walls back up. "You should get some rest for work tomorrow." "You should too," he said. "I will," she lied. She would stay up, keeping her hands busy so she would not think about his kind gray eyes, or the way he looked at her, like she was someone actually worth seeing. He understood. He put his hat on and walked to the door, but he just had to stop. He paused one last time. "Good night, Leia. Good night, Cole." Then he was gone. Leia was alone, hit with the scary thought that for the first time in 3 years, she wanted to stop running. Sunday came clear and cold, with frost on the windows. Leia woke up in her tiny room behind the kitchen, which was hardly bigger than a closet. She lay still, listening to the quiet. It was Sunday, a day of rest, but she never rested. By 5:30, she was in the cookhouse, getting the fire started for the ranch hands. They would sleep in and show up later for breakfast, but they all needed to be fed. Leia was mixing up pancake batter when the door creaked open. It was Cole, and he looked a little shy. "I know it's your day off too," he started, "but I woke up early and thought maybe you could use a hand with breakfast." Leia just stared at him. "You want to help me cook?" "I'm not the best at it," he admitted, "but I can follow orders and I make a pretty good pot of coffee." "You should be resting," she told him. "You worked harder than anyone." He just rolled up his sleeves. "Just tell me what to do." She knew she should say no, but she was tired deep in her bones. The idea of having help was too good to pass up. "Fine," she said, "but you burn my pancakes. You buy the flour." His smile was big and bright, lighting up his whole face. "It's a deal." They worked side by side as the sun came up. Leia showed him the ropes of the kitchen. He was a bit clumsy at first, better with a horse than a skillet, that was for sure. But he was a quick learner and did not complain about his mistakes. "Well, I think this one's more charcoal than pancake," he said, holding up a black mess. Leia laughed, a real laugh that surprised even her. "That one's for the chickens. Try again." By the time the hands started coming in, breakfast was ready and Leia felt lighter. Cole had made her laugh a few more times and told her stories about his own sorry cooking attempts. His stack of pancakes was a little crooked, but they looked good enough to eat. The hands were surprised to see Cole helping, but they did not mind getting their food faster. Rusty whispered to Pete, "I think he's sweet on her." "Hush up, Rusty," Leia called out. "I can hear you," she said without turning around. Cole just shook his head and smiled. After breakfast, he helped her clean up, moving like he knew his way around now. "Thank you," Leia said when they were done. "You really did not have to do that." "I wanted to," Cole said simply. "You've got a few hours off. What are you going to do?" Leia was startled. She could not remember her last free moment. "I do not know. Come for a walk with me," he offered. "A walk?" He gestured outside. "It is a beautiful morning. You have been stuck in that cookhouse for more than a day. Come on out." Every instinct told her no. A walk together felt far too intimate, too close for comfort. It meant talking, something she had avoided for 3 long years. But Cole's hopeful look was hard to deny, and the sun did look beautiful. She was just so tired of turning away from any chance at happiness. "All right," she agreed, 1 hour. His smile was so bright it made her breath catch in her throat. They walked along the eastern fence, where the big Texas country rolled out toward distant mountains. The air was crisp and still, their breath puffing out in white clouds in the morning sun. Leia wore the blue shawl her mother had made. Cole, like an old-fashioned gentleman, offered his arm. She took it, and they walked in a comfortable silence, simply enjoying the quiet of the new day. "Tell me about your life before," Cole finally said, "before you came out here." Leia paused, but the peaceful morning and his steady presence made her want to talk. "I grew up in a small Kansas town. My father was the school teacher, and my mother took in sewing. It was a simple, good life." She smiled at the memory. "I was going to be a teacher too. My father was training me. I loved books, and I thought I would spend my life in a schoolhouse." "What happened?" he asked gently. "A sickness swept through town. My parents were gone within days." Her voice trembled. "I tried to help nurse people, but there was too much death all at once. When it was over, half the town was gone. Everyone I loved." His hand gently covered hers. "I am so sorry, Leia. I could not stay," she whispered. "Too many memories. So I sold what was left, bought a train ticket, and just kept heading west until I landed here. And I gave up teaching. Who would hire a lone woman with no references?" she asked bitterly. "Cooking was a skill that paid the bills, so I cooked. Do you miss it?" The question hit her hard, every single day. After a moment, Cole said, "You could still do it. Millbrook has a school, does it not?" "Yes, but they have a teacher. Besides, I am just a ranch cook now, nothing more." "No," Cole said firmly, stopping to face her. "That is what you do. It is not who you are. You are a survivor who lost everything and kept going. That is the real you, Leia." The intensity in his eyes made her heart race. "You do not know me." "Not yet," he said softly, "but I want to." He slowly reached up and tucked a loose piece of her hair back. "I want to know all of you. The teacher, the cook, the survivor. All of it." She should have pulled away, but she found she could not. She asked, "Why?" He answered, "Because when you smile, you light up the whole place." He took a breath. "And because I have been alone for a long time too." Leia's heart was beating fast. "Oh, you do not have to." "I am not asking for promises," he said gently. "I just want you to know you are special to Martu." A breeze carried the scent of pine and fresh earth. Leia looked in his eyes. She saw her own loneliness there, and her own small hope for something more. "I'm scared," she whispered. "So am I, but if we hope, and something bad happens, then we will face it together." Cole's thumb gently brushed her cheek. "You cannot stop living just because you are afraid of dying. That is not living." She knew he was right. She had been hiding out for 3 long years. She thought if she did not feel anything, she could not get hurt again. But standing with Cole, hope started to bloom in her chest. She was tired of pretending. "One step at a time?" she asked. "One step at a time," he agreed. They did not know that soon the ranch would face terrible violence, and they would both have to choose between staying safe and telling the truth. But right then, there was just sunlight and his hand holding hers. "Tell me about you," she said. "What is your story?" For the first time, Cole seemed to hesitate. A shadow crossed his face. "Not much to tell. Grew up in Oklahoma. Lost my family. Been wandering since then, just looking for a place to belong. No brothers or sisters, just me." Leia sensed he was hiding something, but she understood the need for secrets. She knew some wounds take time to show. "Well," she said, changing the subject, "Hank sure seems to like you. He does not warm up to new folks that fast." Cole relaxed. "He is a good, fair man. He gave me a chance." "You have earned your place here, Leia. You do not owe anybody anything." They walked on, just talking about the ranch and the weather. But underneath the small talk, a real connection was forming between them. When they got back, the ranch was quiet. Cole walked her to the cookhouse door. He did not seem to want to leave. "Thank you," Leia said, "for everything." "Any time," he said, putting his hat on. "Can I help you make dinner?" She should have said no. Instead, she said, "I would like that." His smile was like the sunrise. "Be here." He tipped his hat and left, leaving Leia with a feeling she had not felt in years. A dangerous hope fluttered in her chest, but she told herself to take it one step at a time. Still, she could not help but smile as she went inside to fix dinner. The next week set a new routine. Cole worked hard, proving he was good with the cattle. He was skilled with horses and could fix just about anything, earning the respect of the other hands. Even Hank Donovan was impressed by his quiet way of getting things done. But the evenings were what truly mattered to Leia and Cole. After supper, Cole would come to the cookhouse with a quiet smile to help her clean. They talked about all sorts of things, sharing little pieces of their lives. He spoke of horses he had known and his dream of owning his own land. She told him about her love for books and the recipes her mother taught her. They were both cautious, slowly learning to trust one another. Little by little, a bond began to form between them. The other ranch hands noticed it right away, whispering that Cole was sweet on Leia. They saw she was smiling more, and Leia tried her best to ignore their talk. But it made her shy. No one had ever truly courted her before. Nothing felt like the way Cole looked at her, the way it made her heart race. A week after he arrived on a Friday evening, everything changed. As Cole was about to leave, Leia heard the sound of music in the air. It was a harmonica playing a slow, sad tune that pulled at her heart. "That's beautiful," she said softly. "That's me," Cole admitted, and she turned in surprise. "You play?" she asked. "A little," he said. "Will you play something for me?" He seemed unsure, but she insisted. So he took the harmonica from his pocket. He played a tune right there in the cookhouse, a heartbreaking song full of longing. Leia felt tears well up in her eyes as she listened to the music. When he finished, she whispered, "That was special." He put the harmonica down. "Leia, I need to tell you something," he said, stepping closer. "I have not been honest." Fear shot through her. "My past is complicated," he explained. "There are things I did, things I am not proud of, and I reckon you will hate me when you know the truth." Leia held up her hand. "Whatever it is, it can wait. I am not ready to hear it just yet." Felt frustrated all at once. "But you deserve the truth. What I want is to know you now, not as you were before." She stepped closer, bold enough to rest her hand on his chest, feeling his heart beating strong beneath her palm. "When you're ready to share, I'll listen. Don't carry it alone out of some wrong pride. Tell me when it counts, when we count." "We already count," Cole said rough. "Then trust me enough to wait." He covered her hand with his own, holding it steady on his heart. "You're one of a kind. Did you know that?" "I'm just practical." "You're both." They stood close a long moment, almost kissing, both knowing the line they hadn't crossed. Then Cole stepped back slow, letting go of her hand. "Good night, Leia." "Good night, Cole." As he left, Leia felt something shift. They'd named what was growing between them, this fragile, powerful thing neither knew how to call. And deep down, a quiet voice whispered she was already falling for Cole Roar. Saturday morning came cold and clear, that Wyoming dawn promising hard work and honest sweat. Leia woke before daylight, humming softly as she lit the cookhouse fire, the tune from the harmonica Cole played last night. She caught it, stopped, a little shy, though no one was around. The warmth in her chest stuck around, stubborn and true. The hands came in loud and hungry, tracking frost inside on her clean floor. Leia kept busy serving them, efficient as always, but her eyes kept flickering to the door, watching for one face. Cole showed up last, his hair still damp from washing at the pump, shirt clean despite the early hour. Their eyes met across the busy room, and something passed between them. A secret shared, the words said and left unsaid last night. "Morning, Leia," he said soft, sliding into his seat. "Morning, Cole." She poured his coffee, steady hands but a racing heart. "Sleep good?" "Better than I have in years." The look he gave her said it wasn't just about the bunkhouse bed. Rusty saw it and nudged Pete, grinning wide. "Told you," he whispered loud enough. "Rusty, if you want to keep your eggs safe, eat 'em instead of messing around." Leia shot back without turning. The table cracked up laughing. Even Cole smiled, used to the jest now. The hands had taken him in quick, which was rare. Most rookies earn trust slow. Hank Donovan came in about the time breakfast was ending, his face serious and worn. "All right, boys, today's full. We're moving the north herd to winter pasture. Need every hand on deck. Cole, you work with Eli Turner on the east side. He ain't much older, but he knows the land." "Yes, sir," Cole said. Leia felt a prick of worry at Eli's name. Oldest was just 16, son of a widow in Millbrook, sent here to keep him out of trouble. Good with horses and cattle, but still young. "We got a long day ahead, moving the north herd down to the winter pasture, and we're going to need everyone pulling their weight." Cole, I want you riding with Eli Turner on the east side. He's young, but he sure knows this land. Yes, sir, Cole replied. When Eli's name came up, Leia's heart tightened a bit. The boy was just 16, his ma a widow from Millbrook, sending him out to the ranch to keep him steady. He handled horses and cattle well, no doubt, but he was still green. He had that fire of a young man, the kind that made him take chances older folks knew better than to try. Leia had already stitched him up twice, once from a wild Mustang and once from getting too close to a longhorn. The horn to his ribs was nothing major, but it was enough to make her worry. "Y'all be careful now," she said to the room, but her eyes were fixed right on Cole. He knew. "Always am," he promised, but a bad feeling settled over Leia as they rode out. She tried to push it away, knowing ranch work was just plain dangerous. Still, she found herself watching from the cookhouse window as the hands got ready. She saw Cole swing onto his paint horse and watched young Eli Turner, all smiles and spurs. The boy let out a whoop and kicked his horse toward the north pasture. "Be safe," she whispered, then turned to her chores, trying not to watch the clock. The morning passed slowly with the usual work, cleaning the cookhouse and making bread. She took stock of the root cellar, checking what they needed before winter hit hard. But her thoughts kept drifting to the north pasture, to Cole and that reckless boy, Eli. By noon, she had a hot stew and fresh bread waiting for the hungry men to return. A cold wind kicked up, carrying the promise of bad weather on it. Wyoming weather could turn in a heartbeat, especially this time of year. She was stepping outside when a sharp, scared shout cut across the ranch yard. "Bull's out! Eli is down!" Leia's heart just stopped. She dropped the rug and ran. She flew across the frozen ground, getting to the corral faster than anyone. What she saw there was pure nightmare. The big Hereford bull, 2,000 pounds of pure fury. He'd busted loose somehow, and Eli Turner lay stunned in the dirt right in front of him. The bull lowered its head, pawing the ground, fixing to charge the boy. "Move, Eli!" someone yelled, but the boy was too dazed. Just as the bull charged, Cole rode in. He did not even hesitate, spurring his horse right between the bull and the boy. Leia's scream died in her throat as Cole's horse blocked the boy from certain death. The confused bull slowed down, and Cole used that moment to lean over and grab Eli. He hauled the boy up by his shirt with a strength you would not believe. His brave horse spun away just as the bull's horn missed Cole's leg by inches. The other hands were moving in with ropes, but Cole was the one who had made the difference. He had risked it all, without a second thought, to save a boy he hardly knew. With that bull finally penned, Leia's heart was beating out of her chest. Eli sat on the ground, pale as a ghost. He was shaking all over, a gash on his forehead bleeding down his face. Cole was already knelt down beside him. He checked the boy over. "You all right, son?" Eli's voice trembled. "I think so. That bull just appeared. My horse threw me. I'm so sorry, Cole. I should have been watching closer." "You're alive. That's what matters." Cole helped him to his feet. "But next time you're down, you roll away from the trouble. You hear me?" "Yes, sir." Leia pushed through the crowd. "Bring him to the cookhouse now. That cut needs a good cleaning." Cole supported the limping boy as they walked. The other hands were all talking at once. "Did you see Cole ride right at that thing? I swear I thought we were about to lose them both. That's the bravest thing I've seen in 20 years of ranching." Inside, Leia sat Eli down and tended to the wound. Her hands were steady as a rock, like always, but inside she was falling apart. She kept seeing that bull charging, and Cole riding straight into harm's way. "Hold still now," she told Eli. "Sorry, Miss Leia." He winced. "I know I really messed up bad today." "You made a mistake. You're young, you'll learn," she said, looking him square in the eye. "But your mother sent you here to become a man, not to get yourself killed." "I know," he said, ashamed. I wanted to show I was as tough as the other hands." "Being reckless isn't tough," Cole said from the doorway. "Being smart is tough. You learn from folks who've been around longer." Eli nodded. "Thank you for saving my life, Mr. Cole." "You're welcome. Just promise me you'll be more careful." "I promise." Leia finished his bandage. She sent Eli off to rest, and the cookhouse became dead silent. Leia stood with her back to Cole, gripping the wash basin, trying to catch her breath. "You could have died." The words ripped out of her. a mix of pure anger and terror. You rode straight at that beast without a lick of sense. I was thinking, he said calmly, about saving that boy. And what about you? She spun to face him, tears she didn't know were there streaming down her cheeks. Cole looked completely taken aback. I, I wasn't thinking about my own life at all. Well, maybe you should start, Leia's voice broke. Maybe you should start thinking that your life matters too, that people would care if you got hurt. People, Cole stepped closer, his voice low. Or you, Leia. The question hung in the air between them. She angrily wiped at her tears. Yes, she whispered. Me. In two long strides, he was there, pulling her into his arms, and she held on for dear life. His shirt, as if she could hold him to earth with her bare hands. He was solid and warm, his heart beating steady under her ear. I'm sorry, he murmured into her hair. I did not mean to scare you. I cannot promise that. This is ranch work, Leia. It is a dangerous life. I know that. She looked up at him, still gripping his shirt. But some men are more careful than others. Promise me you will try to be more careful. Why me? His hands cupped her face, his thumbs wiping away her tears. Why does it matter so much to you? Because I am falling in love with you, she thought. Because losing you terrifies me more than anything has in 3 years. But she could not say those words out loud. It was all too new and fragile. Because you matter, she said instead. To me. You matter to me, Cole. His eyes grew dark with emotion, and she thought he might finally kiss her. She wanted him to, more than anything. Instead, he just pressed his forehead to hers, his breath warm on her lips. You matter to me too, he whispered, more than I ever knew was possible. They stood that way for a long moment, and Leia felt something inside her chest finally crack open. It was a part of her that had been frozen solid for 3 long years. She was letting herself hope again, letting herself feel. It was terrifying and wonderful. At last, Cole stepped back. I should get back to it. Hank will need every hand he has. Be careful, Leia said again. I will, I promise. He put his hat on his head. He paused at the door, and the warm warmth in his eyes made her breath catch. Thank you, Leia. For what? For caring if I live or die. It has been a long time. Then he was gone, leaving Leia alone with her racing heart. She knew she had just given Cole the power to destroy her completely. If something happened to him now, she would not survive it. She had barely survived losing her family. Losing Cole would finish the job. But even knowing that, even understanding the risk, she could not make herself pull back. She was in too deep to stop caring now. The afternoon stretched on forever as Leia made dinner, her mind somewhere else. She kept wondering about Cole, hoping he was safe and keeping his promise. The wind started to howl. It rattled the cookhouse windows as dark clouds gathered on the horizon. A storm was coming. A late November storm in Wyoming could be deadly. The hands started coming back as the wind howled. The first drops of rain began to fall. The men were tired, covered in mud, and starving. They all piled into the cookhouse, loud and full of energy. But Cole was not there. Neither was Eli. Leia's heart began to pound while she served stew, her eyes fixed on the door. Then Hank came in, shaking his head. From his coat, she finally asked, "Where is Cole?" Hank replied, "Him and Eli are getting the last of the strays." "They should be back in about an hour," he said, trying to sound sure. But even Hank looked worried, watching the hard rain beat against the windows. Leia tried to keep busy, but a knot of anxiety was tightening in her stomach. The storm got meaner, the wind screaming while the rain turned to sleet. 1 hour passed, and then 2. There was still no sign of Cole or Eli. The other hands left for the bunkhouse, leaving Leia alone with her growing fear. She just stood at the window, staring into the blackness, seeing only her own worried face. "Please come back," she whispered. It was almost 9 o'clock when she heard the faint sound of horses. Leia grabbed her shawl and ran right out into the soaking storm. 2 figures slowly came into view. Eli was slumped over in his saddle, barely holding on. Cole was leading both horses, his face grim. "Help!" he yelled over the wind. "Eli's hurt!" Leia and a few hands from the bunkhouse rushed forward to help. Eli had taken a bad fall, twisting his ankle, and he was shivering uncontrollably from the cold. They got him inside the warm cookhouse, and Leia immediately went to work. It's just a bad sprain, she said after checking him over. But he needs to stay right here by the fire. I will sit with him, Cole said, even though he was shaking too. You will not. You are nearly frozen yourself, Leia insisted. Do not argue with me, Cole. She pointed to her small room. There are dry clothes in there. My father's. Go change. For a second, he looked like he would refuse. Then he saw the fear still in her eyes. Yes, ma'am, he nodded. While he changed, Leia made Eli comfortable with some warm broth. The poor boy was exhausted and already half asleep. Cole returned in her father's old clothes. They were too small, but they were dry. He sat by the fire as she pushed a hot cup of coffee into his hands. What happened? She asked. The storm hit us fast, he said. We could not see 10 feet in front of us. Eli's horse stepped in a hole and threw him. He landed on his ankle all wrong. So you stayed out there and all that? Leia asked, looking toward the raging storm. We found a little cover, he explained. We waited until we could see enough to move. Then I got us back. His hand still trembled a little around the cup. I was not going to risk getting us lost in the dark. He had kept his head and saved them both. You saved him, Leia said softly. I just did what needed doing. No. She sat across from him, holding a warm coffee cup. Most fellows would have panicked out there, but you stayed calm. You kept Eli steady and made all the right calls. Cole just looked down, uneasy with her praise. I've seen storms before. You learn fast that nature only respects caution, not courage. Where did you learn a lesson like that? His eyes got a faraway look, a different life. There was that shadow again, a past he wasn't sharing. Leia knew not to push. Will you stay the night? She asked softly. Help me watch over the boy. If you want. I do. So they sat through the long night, with Eli sleeping soundly between them. The storm howled outside, but the fire inside kept them warm. It should have been strange sitting in silence with him, but it felt right. It felt as natural as anything. Around midnight, Leia broke the quiet. Tell me about the sickness. Tell me what you lost. He was quiet for so long, she thought he wouldn't. I was 14. We had a small place in Oklahoma. My folks, my big brother, and me. It came on in late July. It swept through that town in just a few weeks. His voice was empty, flat. Leia knew that sound. It was the only way to talk about some things without drowning. My mother went first, Cole said. Then my daddy, then my brother. He fought it the longest. He swallowed hard. I was the only one who didn't get sick. I buried them all myself. Then I just walked away. How old were you? Almost 16. That's just a boy. Leia's heart hurt for him, all alone with that kind of grief. I got by, learned how to work a ranch. I just never stayed in one place for too long. He looked at her through the firelight. Not until I came here. What made this place different? He said, I just got tired of running, tired of being alone. I figured it was time to stop and face it all. Cole's gaze was steady and true. I'm trying, Leia. Every day I'm here, every time we talk, I'm trying to hope again. His honesty cut right through her. This strong man was admitting he was scared too. He was fighting to build a life worth having. I'm trying too, Leia whispered back. I know you are. Cole knelt beside her chair. And it's an honor to be trying right here with you. He slowly reached out and took her hand. His own was rough and calloused, but so warm. She held on tight. I'm scared, Cole. Me too. What if we can't do this? Then we go down swinging, but Leia, he squeezed her hand. What if we make it? Build something real out here, something that would last. She wanted to believe they could leave their pasts in the dust, but that's a hard thing to believe when you've already lost it all once before. One step at a time, she said, her voice soft. He nodded, one step at a time. They sat together through the night, holding hands while the storm howled outside, watching over that little boy, and a quiet calm settled in Leia's heart. Whatever was coming for them down the road, she knew she wouldn't be facing it by herself. Cole Rohr was her partner, her friend, and maybe something more. By sunrise, the world was washed clean. Eli woke up, his ankles still tender, but feeling a whole lot better. Leia started on breakfast while Cole gently helped the boy back to the bunkhouse. When Cole came back, the other hands were already filling the kitchen, and their private moment was gone. But he caught her eye from across the room, and his little smile said it all. Last night mattered. Over the next couple of days, things started to change on that ranch. The story of how Cole saved Eli got around. He'd saved him not once, but twice. First from that angry bull, then from the storm. The men who already liked him now looked at him with a whole new respect. "That Roar fella's got ice water in his veins," Rusty said. "Brave as all get out," Pete added, "and smart too. That's what counts." Even old Hank Donovan took notice. Wednesday morning, Hank pulled Cole aside. Leia heard him say, "You've proved yourself 10 times over, son. I'm making you head wrangler. It's more pay, more responsibility, and more say around here." "I appreciate that, Mr. Donovan," Cole said, his voice steady. "I won't let you down." "I know you won't. Good instincts are worth more than fancy rope in any day." Leia's heart swelled with pride just listening to them. She was so proud of Cole for earning that trust, proud that everyone was finally seeing the man she saw. Cole Roar was a good man, the kind you'd want standing beside you when the chips were down. That evening, Cole asked Leia to take another walk with him. The sky was clear and cold, with stars scattered all over. They headed toward the barn, their breath making little white clouds in the chilly air. "Congratulations on the new job," Leia said with a smile. "Thank you. It means I'll be staying on, at least through winter." He looked over at her. "Would that be all right with you?" "Yes," she said, "it's more than all right." They walked on for a bit, quiet and comfortable. Leia realized she could finally just be herself with him. No walls, no pretending, just her. "Can I tell you something?" Cole asked, stopping by the corral. "Always," she answered. "That night in the storm, just sitting there with you, it was the most peace I've felt since I was a kid. Even with all that danger outside, I felt like I was finally home, like I belonged somewhere." Leia turned to him, her heart just about bursting. "I felt it too. I know we're not rushing things. I know we've both been careful, but you need to know something." He gently tucked her hair behind her ear. His touch was soft. "I care about you a whole lot, and I'm not leaving unless you tell me to." "I won't," she whispered. "Good, because I aim to stay." His thumb softly brushed her cheek. "I want to prove to you that we are worth the risk." Leia leaned into his warm touch, finally letting herself feel everything. "You already have, Cole." He gave her that rare, full smile. It lit up his whole face, and her last walls just crumbled. She knew she was in love with him, completely and wonderfully in love. And the way Cole looked back at her with such warmth and promise told her he was falling for her too. "Can I kiss you?" he asked softly. She rose up on her toes to meet him in the middle. The kiss was soft at first, a little unsure as they explored this new ground. Then his arms pulled her close, and Leia just melted into him. It felt so right to finally feel again. When they broke apart, breathing hard, he rested his forehead on hers. "I've wanted to do that since the first day I laid eyes on you." "Why didn't you?" "Because you weren't ready. I had to earn it. I could not just take it." Lord, she loved him for that, for his patience and his respect. He understood she needed time to trust again. "I'm ready now," she said. "I am ready for us." "Are you sure? Because once we start this, I am all in. I do not do things halfway." "Neither do I," she said, holding his face. She took in the moment. "I am scared, but I am sure. I want you." Cole then kissed her again, slower. It was a deeper kiss, and Leia let herself fall completely, daring to believe that maybe, just maybe, she could be happy again, that she deserved to be loved. They finally walked back, holding hands under the big Texas sky. Their future felt full of bright possibilities. Leia Hart was not just getting by anymore. She was truly living, and all because of the quiet man who showed up asking only for coffee and a chance. He had proven himself, and then some. Cole gave her back her hope and her heart. She was scared, but ready to see where this path led. Together, they were starting something new, something real and worth fighting for. It was worth the risk of loving again. but they had no idea that their peace was about to be shattered. Secrets were coming, and they would both be tested. But for right now, in that moment, it was just the two of them, just the promise of a future they would build, one step at a time. That next week flew by in a happy blur. They found small moments to be together, growing closer. Even with all the ranch work, they found time. They talked over coffee before the sun was fully up. They took walks after supper and sat by the fire, just talking about anything and everything. The ranch hands all noticed, of course. Their friendly teasing just became a part of the day, a part of their new life. But Cole and Leia didn't pay it any mind. They were too busy getting to know one another. They learned the little things that make a person whole, like how Cole drank his coffee black as night, and how Leia hummed when she was happy. They both still woke up from nightmares about the sickness, but now they weren't facing them alone. "Well, you're just glowing," Rusty told Leia one morning, his grin as wide as Texas. "I've never seen you look so happy." Leia tried to say she wasn't, but a smile gave her away. "She is," Pete agreed. "And Cole walks around like he won the grand prize. It's almost too much to watch." "Then don't look," Cole said with a smile, his eyes locking with Leia's across the busy cookhouse. Even Hank Donovan seemed to approve of the whole thing. "It's good to see you settling down, Cole," he said one afternoon. "And Leia, she deserves a bit of happiness. Lord knows she's earned it." But happiness made a person soft. It made you think about tomorrow in a way you never did when just getting by was the only goal. And caring about tomorrow meant you had something precious to lose. She tried to push that thought away. She wanted to live in the moment with Cole, without that nagging worry. But at night, a deep fear would visit her, a fear that this was all too good to last, that it would all be shattered. She had lost everything once before. What was to stop it from happening all over again? Thursday evening brought the first sign of trouble. Leia was fixing to serve dinner when Hank walked in, a storm cloud on his weathered face. "Is everything all right, Hank?" she asked. He sighed. "I sure hope so. Just got word from town. Seems some rustlers hit the Morrison Ranch. They ran off with 40 head of cattle." Leia felt a knot tighten in her stomach. "You reckon they'll come this way?" "It's hard to say," Hank replied. "We've got extra watch on the herds. But Leia, if any trouble starts, you stay inside this cookhouse. You hear me?" "I understand," she said. But when Cole came in later, she couldn't keep her worries to herself. "Hank told me about the rustlers," she said quietly. Cole's easygoing look vanished in an instant. "I heard," and he said, "we've got good men watching the herds. It should be fine." "Should be" isn't the same as will be. He stopped what he was doing and looked right at her. "Leia, this is how it is out here on the ranch. There's always a risk, bad weather, accidents, or bad men. We just stay watchful and hope for the best." "But I just got you," she whispered. "I'm not looking to lose you to some low-down cattle thieves." In two long strides, he was there, pulling her into a tight hug. "You won't lose me, I promise." "I've made it through a whole lot worse than rustlers," he said. The way he said it made her pull back. "What do you mean by that?" That shadow fell across his face again. "It just means I know how to handle trouble." "Cole, what is it you're not telling me?" For a second, she thought he would finally open up, but he just shook his head. "Not yet, Leia. Please, just give me a few more days of this before I weigh you down with my past." Leia wanted answers, but she knew some happiness is too fragile to rush. "A few more days," she promised. "But then you have to tell me everything." He swore he would. Cole kissed her forehead. "Thank you for being patient with me." That night, Leia lay awake, listening. She thought about secrets. Everyone has them, things from their past they wish they could bury. Whatever Cole was hiding, it could not be worse than her own grief. She had already decided. She loved him. His past was not going to change that. Friday came in cold and gray. It was the kind of morning that made your bones ache. Leia got up early, but Cole was already in the cookhouse. He was building up the fire. "You are up early," she said. He just shrugged. "Could not sleep." He dusted the ash from his hands. "Coffee is on." They worked side by side, preparing the big breakfast. It felt so natural, like they had been partners for years, not just a few weeks. The ranch hands came in hungry, same as always. But today was different. There was a tension in the air. The men ate fast and spoke in low voices. They all checked their weapons before heading out. "Stay sharp today, boys," Hank called out. And nobody rides alone. If you see something, fire a warning shot and get back here. Understood? Yes, boss, they all answered. Cole stayed behind to help Leia clear the tables. He looked at her and said, "You are worried, are not you?" She sighed. "I try not to borrow trouble. It does not do any good to worry about what might happen." "That is a wise way to see it." He took her hand, pulling her close. "I would rather think about you and how lucky I am." Leia leaned against him, feeling his strength. "Just be careful out there today." "Always," he said. He gave her a soft kiss and turned to leave, but stopped at the door. "Leia, no matter what happens, I need you to know that I love you. I should have said it sooner. But I do. I love you." Her breath caught in her throat. "I just needed you to know." And then he was gone. Leia stood there, her heart pounding in her chest. He loved her. Cole Roar loved her. And she loved him right back, with everything she had. "I love you too," she whispered to the empty room. The day dragged on, each minute feeling like an hour. Leia tried to keep busy, but her mind was out there with Cole and the other men. A feeling of dread hung over the whole ranch. By late afternoon, she was on edge. She kept staring out the cookhouse window, seeing nothing but feeling that something was wrong. Then, as the sun began to set, she heard it. A single gunshot. It echoed clean across the valley. Then another, and another. The quiet evening was shattered. The crack of rifles shattered the quiet afternoon. Leia's heart hammered as chaos exploded on the ranch. A dozen raiders on horseback stormed in from the east, firing wildly as they rode. They were after the horses, trying to stir up a panic. The ranch hands dove for cover and started firing back. Leia ducked below the window, her mind racing. Hank told her to stay locked in the cookhouse. But then she saw young Eli Turner stagger out of the barn, clutching a bloody shoulder. She did not hesitate. She grabbed her father's old medicine bag and ran straight into the fight. A bullet whizzed past her ear. She smelled the gunpowder and horse sweat as she reached Eli. With a strength she did not know she had, she dragged him back toward the cookhouse. "I'm hit, Miss Leia," he gasped, his face as white as a sheet. "I know, honey. I have got you now. Just hold on tight." She got him inside and bolted the door. The wound was clean through his shoulder, thank the good Lord, but it was bleeding something fierce. Her hands went to work, packing the wound, her training taking over. "Am I going to make it?" Eli asked, his voice just a scared whisper. "Not if I have anything to say about it," Leia said, her voice steady as a rock. Outside, the shooting went on. She peered through the window and saw the hands holding their own. And then she saw Cole. He moved with a rifle in his hand, like a man who was born to it. Every shot he took was calm and precise. He was not just a ranch hand, he was a trained fighter. Soon, other wounded men stumbled to her door for help. Her kitchen was now a field hospital. She patched up bullet grazes and a nasty knife wound, the smell of fear heavy in the air. "Leia!" Rusty cried, bursting in. "They're trying for the main house. Hank's pinned down." He said, "We need every gun we have got." Leia's eyes fell on her father's old Colt revolver on the wall. Her daddy had taught her to shoot, saying every woman out here needed to know how. She had never thought she would have to use that lesson. "Watch over them," she told Rusty, nodding to the wounded men. She grabbed the Colt, checked that it was loaded, and ran back into the smoky yard. A raider on a big horse turned and aimed his rifle right at her. Leia raised the heavy pistol and fired. Her first shot was wide, but it made him duck. Her second shot found its mark, and the man let out a yelp as he tumbled from his saddle. "Get down!" a voice roared over the noise. It was Cole. He shoved her to the dirt, covering her with his own body as bullets flew right over their heads. Firing over her head. "What in the world are you doing out here? Get inside!" "Eli's hurt," she cried out. "The others are too. I had to help them." His face was a battlefield of pride and terror. "You are the bravest woman I know." "And you are going to give me a heart attack," he said, firing twice more at a raider. "Get back to the cookhouse. Now." He grabbed her face and gave her a hard, quick kiss. "Stay alive, Leia. You hear me?" Then he was gone, running toward Hank. Leia scrambled back inside, her pistol clutched tightly in her hand. The gunfight raged for another 20 minutes, the longest of her entire life. She patched up wounds, reloaded the Colt, and prayed with all her might. "Please," she whispered to the heavens, Please let Cole make it through this. Finally, the sound of gunfire started to fade away. The raiders were retreating, realizing they were outmatched. Leia stood at the cookhouse door, her dress stained, the heavy gun in her hand. She watched the ranch hands return, her heart pounding as she counted them. She saw Rusty, then Pete, then Hank, but not Cole. Her heart just stopped. Then she saw him, limping but alive, helping another wounded man. When their eyes met across the yard, the relief that hit her almost buckled her knees. He brought the injured man to the cookhouse, his own face streaked with soot and blood. "You're bleeding," she said softly, noticing the gash on his arm. "It is nothing. You?" "I am fine," she breathed. In that moment, he pulled her into a powerful hug. Leia held on to him like he was the only solid thing in a world turned upside down. "I thought I lost you," she whispered against his dusty shirt. "Don't you ever scare me like that again," he said, his own voice cracking. "Then you had better not get shot," she shot back. He let out a shaky laugh. "Deal." The ranch was a mess. 2 raiders were down, and 3 more were tied up. But all their men were alive, some seriously hurt, but alive. "We got real lucky," Hank said, looking over the scene. "Who were these fellas?" "Buck Lawson's gang," one of the captured men spat on the ground. "And he'll be back." Leia felt Cole go completely stiff beside her at the mention of that name. His face became a stone mask, hiding a past she knew nothing about. "Settle." The man grinned with a busted mouth. "Heard he was after someone special from his past." "Who?" Hank demanded. The raider just cackled. "Ask Roar, he knows." All eyes went straight to Cole. Leia saw a flash of fear and grief cross his face, all mixed up together. "Cole," Hank said carefully, "you know Buck Lawson?" The silence got real heavy. Cole finally stepped away from Leia. His face was a storm of emotions. "We need to talk. Especially you, Leia." He looked at her. His eyes were filled with pain. "You wanted the truth. Well, you're about to get it." Leia's stomach just dropped. "Let's go inside." Cole turned to Hank. "Can you spare 15 minutes? I reckon we all need to hear this." They all gathered in the cookhouse with the senior hands. The wounded were resting in the bunkhouse. Cole stood by a window, his back to everyone. His shoulders were tight as a drum. "My name ain't Cole Roar," he finally said, his voice flat. "I was born Colton Prescott." That name just hung in the air. Leia saw Hank's face change. A shock went through the men. "Prescott," Hank said slowly, "like James Prescott, the outlaw?" "He was my father." Cole turned to face them, his eyes full of a raw pain that broke Leia's heart. "And yes, I rode with his gang, from when I was 15 until I was 19. "Lord have mercy," Rusty whispered. Cole's jaw set hard. "After I lost my family, I was just lost. Buck Lawson found me. He took me in and got me in with the gang. They said my father was some kind of hero. Said the law wronged him. I was a grieving kid, so I believed every word." "What did you do?" Hank's voice was like stone. "Robbed stages and banks, rustled cattle." Cole's hand was shaking. "But I never killed anyone, I swear it. I was just part of it all. When I finally saw what I'd become, I ran." "Where to?" Hank asked. "Everywhere and nowhere. I changed my name and kept moving. That was 6 years ago. I've been on the straight and narrow since, but Buck Lawson never forgave me for leaving. He's been hunting me down for years. And now he's found you," Hank said grimly. Cole looked right at Leia, his eyes pleading. "That's why they came tonight. It was not for the horses. It was for me. For revenge." The floor dropped out from under Leia. Cole had been an outlaw, a common criminal. Everything she thought she knew about the man was built on top of a lie. "Leia," he started toward her. "Don't," she whispered, holding up her hand. "I tried to tell you. I was just so afraid." "Afraid of what?" she asked. A pained look crossed his face. "That you would hate me, that I'd lose you before I ever really had you." "You lied to me, Cole." "I never lied to you. I just didn't tell you everything." "That's the same darn thing," her voice broke. "I trusted you. I let myself fall for you. And all this time, you were hiding this from me." Cole's voice was raw with pain. "I knew you would look at me this way. Like I'm a stranger. Like we meant nothing. It means everything, Leia cried. That's why this hurts so much. A wide gulf opened between them in the cookhouse. The other hands looked down at their boots, wishing they were anywhere else. I ought to ride out, Cole said, his voice hollow. Tonight, before Lawson returns, if I am gone, you all will be safe. No, Hank's voice cut in. You are not going anywhere. Cole looked up, stunned. You heard me. You are staying. What you did 6 years ago is in the past. You have more than paid for it here. I care about the man you are today. Lawson is a problem we will face together. This ranch does not abandon its own. Hank looked at the other hands. Any of y'all got a problem with that? Rusty spoke first. He saved my life tonight. His past is his own business. I agree, Pete added. The others nodded. Cole was floored. You would stand with me, knowing what I was? We are standing with the man you are now, Hank corrected. The man who saved a boy from a bull and fought to protect this ranch. That is the man we stand with. Cole could barely speak. I do not deserve this. None of us get what we deserve, Hank said, clapping his shoulder. You are one of us, son. The men left, leaving Cole and Leia alone in the heavy silence. Leia tried to catch her breath. I understand if you cannot forgive me, Cole said softly. I understand if this changes everything. Leia turned to stare out the window. Her heart was a storm of anger, hurt, and a love that would not fade. I told you how I blamed myself for my family, she said, her voice quiet. Well, the reason is, I was the one who brought the sickness to our home. I was helping a neighbor's sick children, and I brought it back to my own parents. They died because of me. Cole's breath caught in his throat. Leia, that was not your fault. Wasn't it? I made a choice, and they died because of it. She turned to face him, tears streaming down her face. But I learned something from that guilt, Cole. Our past mistakes do not define who we are. It is what we do next that counts. It is how we try to make things right. I have tried, Cole said, his voice hoarse. I know you have. I have seen it, she said, closing the distance between them. You saved Eli. You saved me. You were kind and honest about everything except for this one very big thing. She looked him square in the eye. But Cole, whoever you really are, I've spent 3 years punishing myself for things I couldn't control. I'm not about to punish you for the same. Hope flickered in his eye. What? What are you saying, Frate? I'm saying I'm hurt you didn't trust me. And I'm saying this is not going to be easy to work through. She touched his face, feeling the tremor under her hand. But I'm also saying I love you, the man you are now. And I won't let your past destroy our future. Leia, his voice broke completely. You don't get to run away from this. Not from us. You said you were tired of running. Well, now is the time to prove it. You have to stay and face me in what we have. When Buck Lawson comes back and it gets ugly, we will deal with it together. She pulled his face down to hers. I'm not sending you away, Cole. I'm not giving up on us. But you must promise me. No more secrets. No more hiding. From now on, we face everything with the truth. I promise, he said. He wrapped his arms around her, holding her tight. I promise, Leia. No more secrets and no more running. I'm staying right here. I'll spend the rest of my life proving I'm worthy of your trust. You already have, she whispered, by telling the truth even when you were scared, and by loving me enough to let me make my own choice. They stood there in the falling darkness, two wounded people choosing each other against all odds. What do we do now? Cole asked. Now we prepare. If Buck Lawson is coming back, we have to be ready. Leia looked straight at him. And Cole, this time, you'll tell us everything. Every last detail about Lawson and his crew. No more protecting us by keeping us in the dark. He nodded slowly. You're right. They all deserve to know what they're up against. He touched her face. Thank you, Leia, for seeing the man I am trying to be. That's what love is, she said simply, seeing the whole person, good and bad, and choosing them anyway. They kissed then, a slow kiss full of promises, a promise to build something real on a foundation of honesty and hard-earned hope. A tense quiet settled over the ranch. The wounded were resting inside. Guards were posted, watching for any sign of Buck Lawson's return. And in the cookhouse, lit by the fire, Leia and Cole held each other and planned for what was coming. Because Buck Lawson would be back. They were absolutely certain of that. But this time, they would be ready. This time, they would face the storm together. They were still fighting, still holding on to a fragile kind of hope. Sometimes hope is all a person needs. The dawn came cold and gray. Leia had not slept a wink, so she rose before the sun. She kept busy in the kitchen, cooking biscuits, bacon, and strong coffee. The simple work kept her mind off the 100 fears trying to take hold. An hour later, Cole found her there, with a little flour dusting her hair. He looked just as worn out, moving carefully like a man expecting a blow. His arm was bandaged, but he still favored it as he walked in. "You ought to be resting," he said quietly. "So should you," she replied. "But here we are." He stepped up close behind her, and she could feel his presence like a fire. His breathing was unsteady. "Leia, about last night." "We said what we had to say." She turned to face him then. "I meant every single word, Cole. I am not running." The relief that washed over his face almost broke her heart right there. "I was afraid you would wake up and realize you had made a mistake." "The only mistake," she said, touching his cheek, "would be letting you face this all alone." He caught her hand and kissed her palm. "I do not deserve you." "Stop that talk. Now sit down and eat. We need to figure out what comes next." What came next arrived 20 minutes later was Sheriff Tom Reynolds. He rode in hard with 4 deputies, all of them looking grim and ready for trouble. They spread out, scanning for threats, before Hank went out to meet them. Leia watched from her window as Cole stepped outside to join Hank, his shoulders set firm. She could not hear their words, but she saw the exact moment the sheriff's face changed. He recognized Cole. The sheriff's hand went straight down for his gun. "Hold on there!" Hank's voice boomed loud and clear across the yard. "Before you do something we will all regret, you need to hear the whole story." "The story is Colton Prescott," Reynolds snapped beating back, "wanted in 3 territories. On 6-year-old posters from when he was just a bum," Hank argued. "He has been living honest, and last night he helped save this ranch from Buck Lawson's men." That got the sheriff's attention. "Buck Lawson was here?" Hank nodded. "His men were. 3 are tied up in the barn. They talked, said Lawson has a score to settle with Prescott." Hank crossed his arms. "Point is, Sheriff, we've got bigger fish to fry. This is not about a fella who went straight 6 years ago. We have an active gang to worry about. They hit my ranch, and they will hit others. That is where your focus ought to be." Just then, Leia burst out of the cookhouse and planted herself right next to Cole. She held her chin high. "Sheriff Reynolds, that man Cole is a good man, whatever name he uses. He saved little Eli Turner's life twice. He works harder than anyone, and he fought for us last night. If you think you are going to arrest him, you will have to get past me first." Reynolds just stared. "Miss Leia, this is not your business." "It is my business. This man is part of our ranch, our community, and my life. He has paid for his past." She felt Cole's hand find hers and squeeze it. "He has earned his place here with honest work. So unless you have a current charge against him, you should go hunt down the real criminals." A slow smile spread on Hank's face. "She makes a good point, Tom." Reynolds let out a long sigh, dropping his hand from his gun. "All right, we will table the old warrants for now. But you and me, Prescott, we are going to have a long talk after I handle these prisoners. And if I learn you have been up to anything illegal, I will haul you to jail myself." "Understood, Sheriff," Cole said quietly. "I have got nothing left to hide." The captured raiders were brought out from the barn, hands tied, looking rough in the daylight. The youngest one kept his eyes down, but 2 older men stared at Cole with pure hatred. "There he is," the one called Jack spat. "The Prescott boy who ran. Buck has been looking for you a long time." "Why is that?" Reynolds demanded. "What interest does Lawson have in ancient history?" "Because your boy there made Buck look like a fool, ran out on a tee and nearly got us all captured." Jack grinned, showing broken teeth. "Buck does not forget betrayal, and he sure does not forgive it." So this attack was all about revenge? Hank asked. This was just the beginning. Buck has plans, and a pretty thing like you, he said to Leia, should not stand so close to a dead man. Cole moved in a flash, grabbing Jack by his shirt. You threaten her again, and I will finish you. Cole, Leia said sharply, he is not worth it. Cole stared the man down for another second, then shoved him back hard. Keep on talking, Jack. Every word just helps the sheriff build a case to hang you. Reynolds stepped in. That is enough. Deputies, get them loaded up. We are taking them to Millbrook. As the prisoners were taken away, Reynolds pulled Cole aside. Leia watched, her heart pounding. Their talk was quiet, but Cole was coiled tight, his jaw clenched at whatever Reynolds said. Finally, Cole nodded and shook his hand. The sheriff and his men mounted up and rode out. They left with the prisoners, leaving a tense silence. So what did he say? Leia asked Cole. He's telling folks I'm helping the law, that I'm a witness under his protection now. Against Buck Lawson. He reckons it'll keep the bounty hunters away. Cole looked worried. He also said if Lawson shows up, I need to let him know, no trying to be a hero. And will you? She asked. Cole met her eyes. Yes, I am done running, Leia, done hiding. If Lawson comes, we'll do this the right way, with the law. Hank walked over, looking thoughtful. Well, now, that went better than I figured. Reynolds is a fair man, but he does love the law. The fact he's ignoring those old warrants, well, that says he's a practical man. He knows Lawson is the real danger, Cole said. But Hank, I will leave if you want me to. I brought this trouble on you. Hold on now, Hank cut in. You're one of us, and we do not turn our backs on our own. He clapped Cole's shoulder with a smile. Besides, we'll need every good man we have. You're staying, and that is that. In the days that followed, the ranch became a fortress. Guards were posted around the clock. All the hands took turns on watch, their rifles never far from their hands. Hank sent word to the neighbors, and soon everyone was working together to watch for Lawson. Cole worked harder than any man there, trying to prove his worth with every chore he did. Leia watched him, and she could still see the guilt eating away at him. You are going to work yourself into an early grave, she told him late one evening. He looked bone-tired. I'm just trying to make up for the trouble I caused. He slumped into a chair. You have fixed more problems than you ever caused. Leia set a plate of food before him. Eat, then we are going to talk about this. I am not punishing myself. Yes, you are. You are trying to earn what you already have. She sat down across from him, her voice gentle but firm. Cole, we have all forgiven you. Hank, the hands, even the sheriff. When are you going to forgive yourself? I was part of something awful, Leia. I stole from good people. I scared them. How do I just let that go? You do not let it go. You carry it, but do not let it break you. She took his hand in hers. You use it. Let it make you a better, kinder man. Let it be the fellow that makes you live a different life. That is what you do with it. I'm trying, Leia squeezed his hand. Having you here gives me something to fight for. Cole's eyes met hers, and she could see the love mixing with his pain. I want to deserve you, he said. You already do. Now eat before your dinner gets cold. And you are getting a full night's rest. No excuses. I need you to be well. A small smile touched his lips. You get awful bossy when you are worried about me. Someone has to be. You are terrible at taking care of yourself, she replied with a smile. After that talk, an easier rhythm settled over them. Cole learned to accept he was part of a community. The other ranch hands noticed the change too. Rusty mentioned he seemed more settled. That is because Leia will not let him run, Pete said with a wide grin. She has got that man wrapped right around her little finger. Eli, who was recovering from his wound, spoke up from his chair. He saved my life twice. I do not care what he did 6 years ago. That feeling was echoed all across the ranch. Cole was one of their own in now. A week later, it was time for the captured gang members' trial in Millbrook. Cole and Hank went to testify, and Leia insisted on riding along with them for safety. If Buck Lawson tries anything, you will need someone to patch you up, she argued. The courtroom was packed with townspeople, worried ranchers, and a few tough-looking men. Leia figured those men were bounty hunters, eyeing Cole like a prize. Sheriff Reynolds kept a firm hand on the proceedings, making sure there was order. The trial moved quickly. The evidence against the raiders was overwhelming. All three were found guilty and sentenced to hang before the month was out. But the real stunner came during Cole's testimony. He took the witness stand. He laid out his whole history with the Prescott gang, holding nothing back. The prosecutor asked him, "Why are you telling us all this? You are admitting to crimes." "It is time," Cole said simply. "Time to stop running and face what I did. I want to help put Buck Lawson away for good, whatever the consequences are for me. If my story can help stop him from hurting more people, then it is worth it." The whole room started buzzing. The judge banged his gavel to quiet everyone down. He fixed his gaze on Cole. "Mr. Asahaisha Prescott," he began, "considering your cooperation, this court is prepared to suspend past charges if you continue to assist the law to help catch Buck Lawson. Do you agree to these terms?" "Yes, Your Honor, I do." "Then this court will see to your protection. If Lawson or his bunch come after you, they will be met with the full might of the law." The judge looked at him kindly. "Son, every man deserves a second chance. Don't you go wasting yours." "I won't, sir. I promise." Outside, Leia threw her arms around Cole. "You did it," she cried. "I just told the truth," he said, a slight tremble in his voice. "For the first time in 6 long years, I do not have to hide." "How does that feel?" He looked right at her, his eyes shining. "It is terrifying and wonderful. It feels like I can finally breathe." Hank walked up smiling. "That took real grit, son." The judge was mighty impressed. "They are already putting a posse together for Lawson. With your help, they just might catch him." "I sure hope so," Cole said seriously. "But until they do, Hank, he is still out there, and he will be looking for me." "We will keep our eyes open," Hank replied simply. "Just like always. We are ranchers, son. We know how to handle all kinds of threats. We will be just fine." The ride back to the ranch was quiet. Each of them was lost in their own thoughts. Leia looked out at the land, seeing both its raw beauty and its hidden dangers. This was honest country. You had to face things head-on to survive out here. It was much like the choice she had made to stand right by Cole's side. Back at the ranch, the daily work went on. Cattle needed care and fences needed mending. Cole worked with a new spirit, no longer trying to prove anything to anyone. He was simply himself, capable and dedicated, and he finally felt like he belonged. About 2 weeks later, Hank gathered all the hands after supper. "I have been thinking," he started, "about the future of this ranch. I am not getting any younger, and I need someone I can count on. A man to take on more responsibility. Someone who knows this work and can lead the other men. A man who has proven himself." Leia felt Cole go still as Hank looked right at him. "Cole Prescott, I am offering you the job of ranch foreman. You would be my second in command, running the day-to-day operations. The pay is a whole lot better, and you will have a real say in things." The room went dead quiet. All eyes were on Cole. He looked completely stunned. "Hank, I do not know what to say." "Just say yes," Rusty shouted. "You earned it." "It does not matter what my name is," Cole said, getting to his feet. "But Hank, are you sure about this? With my past and all?" Hank stood up and put out his hand. "I am sure because of your past, son, not in spite of it. You made mistakes, and you owned them. You came out a stronger man. That is the kind of man I want, running this ranch for me. What do you say?" Cole shook Hank's hand, his voice thick with emotion. "It would be my honor, sir. I will not let you down." Hank's grip was solid. "I know you will not. Now let us celebrate. Leia, you have any of that apple pie left? For this, I will bake a whole new one." Leia was just beaming with pride. She watched Cole getting congratulations from the other hands. Later that night, when the ranch was quiet, Cole found Leia in the cookhouse finishing up. She heard him come in and turned, seeing the wonder still on his face. "Foreman," she said quietly, "that is really something. I cannot believe it. 6 months ago, I was just a drifter with a fake name. Now," he just shook his head, "I am building a real life here. You deserve every bit of it, Cole. All the good things happening, you earned them." He walked over and pulled her into his arms. "I could not have done it without you. You believed in me when I could not. You gave me a reason to finally stop running." Leia leaned her head against his chest, listening to his steady heartbeat. We saved each other. You made me want to start living again, not just getting by. They swayed together in the warm cookhouse, and Leia felt a deep peace. This was not the life she had imagined back in Kansas. It was not the teaching career she had dreamed of, but it was real and it was good. Leia, Cole said quietly, I need to talk about the future. Our future. She looked up at him. What about it? I need you to know that you are in all my plans. Everything I am building here, it is for a life with you. A real life, together. A future. He gently touched her cheek. I know this is fast, and there is still the threat of Lawson out there, but I am not going anywhere. I am staying right here with you for as long as you will have me. Cole Prescott, Leia said, her voice trembling. Are you trying to propose? Not yet. Not until I can do it right. He gave her that rare, full smile of his. But I am letting you know my intentions. So when I do ask, and I will, you will not be surprised. I will not be, she agreed, rising up on her toes to kiss him. And just so you know, my answer is going to be yes. He held her even tighter. Are you sure with all of this? Especially with all of this. We face the worst together, Cole. We can face anything now. They held each other there, two people who had lost everything and found one another in the wreckage. Outside, a Wyoming winter was coming on, bringing its own troubles. And somewhere out there, Buck Lawson was still hunting. But right then, none of that mattered. It was just the two of them, and a love that had grown from pain into something incredibly strong. The next few weeks were a blur of hard work. Cole stepped into his new foreman role with a natural authority, earning the respect of all the hands. He quickly reorganized the work schedules, brought in new safety rules, and started planning for the spring. Through it all, Cole stuck close to Leia, stealing quiet moments over coffee or a walk in the cold. They'd have quiet talks by the fire after everyone else turned in for the night. Then word came that Sheriff Reynolds had lost Buck Lawson's trail in a Montana snowstorm. Some folks figured the outlaw had just run off for good, but others believed he was just lying low, waiting for his chance. Cole stayed watchful but told Leia, if he comes, he comes. I am not living my life looking over my shoulder. He was determined to truly live and trust they could handle whatever came their way. Leia loved that about him, how he chose hope over bitterness. He chose to build things up instead of tearing them down, and he chose love over fear. As the snows started in December, Leia found herself dreaming of the future again. She pictured watching the ranch thrive through the seasons. She even imagined the sound of children's laughter filling the house one day. It was not the life she had planned, but it was the life she now wanted. One evening, Cole turned to her by the fire and said, there's something I need to tell you. Leia's heart gave a little jump. What is it? The judge put a $2,000 reward on Buck Lawson's head, he started, and for my testimony, they gave me a share. He pulled out an envelope. $600, Leia. That's wonderful, Cole. You can start building your future. I want to put it into the ranch, he said, for repairs and new equipment. Hank will not take a gift, but he will accept it as an investment in our future. Tears welled in Leia's eyes. Then you do that. This place is my home now. You are my home. He took her hands in his. Besides, I owe this place more than money. I owe it my life, this second chance. $600 is nothing compared to that. You are a good man, Cole Prescott, Leia whispered to him. They talked late into the night, making plans and sharing dreams for their life together. When Cole walked her to her door, he gave her a tender kiss that promised forever. Soon, he murmured, I am going to make this official. I just want it to be perfect. It already is perfect, Leia replied softly. We survived the worst part. Everything from here on out is just beautiful, ordinary life. Cole smiled. Then let us start living it, together. A new beginning. Cole put his money into the ranch, and Hank put Cole's name right on the deed. He made him a junior partner, a gesture that left Cole at a loss for words. The trouble from Buck Lawson just seemed to fade away. It was still out there, but it wasn't the boss of them anymore. Life, just like Leia said, was moving on, and it was a good life. The ranch hands respected Cole's leadership. He was a fair man who worked right alongside them. Young Eli started following him around like a shadow. The boy was soaking up all the knowledge he could, and Leia watched it all, feeling a quiet pride. She saw the man Cole was becoming, or maybe the man he'd been all along. He was building a good life, earning the trust everyone had given him. One clear December night, Leah watched the snow fall from her cookhouse window. She thought about how much had changed. A year ago, she was just surviving, and Cole was just running from a past that haunted him. Now they were both finally free, free to hope, to dream, and to love without holding back. She heard his boots crunching in the snow. He was bundled up against the cold, his breath making clouds in the air. When he stepped inside, he stamped the snow off his boots, and his eyes met hers right away. "Figured you might want some company," he said with a small smile. "Always." She poured him a cup of hot coffee, and they sat by the fire. They didn't need words. They just understood each other. Tomorrow would have its own problems. Life was always a mix of good and bad, but now they would face it all together, two people who had found each other when they were broken and built something beautiful from the pieces. And that was more than enough. It was everything. January came in with a fury, dumping 3 feet of snow. The cold was so bitter it would freeze water on the way from the well to the barn. The hands worked around the clock, breaking ice and tending to the livestock just to keep things going. Cole earned his stripes as foreman during those hard weeks. He organized the work crews and made sure no man stayed out in the biting cold for too long. He even checked on the weakest cattle himself. Leah would watch him come in each night, dead tired but content. His face was chapped by the wind, but his eyes shined with purpose. "You were made for this life," she told him. "I was made for you," he whispered, pulling her close. "This ranch is just a bonus." They had fallen into a rhythm that felt as real as any marriage. Cole spent his evenings in the cookhouse, helping Leah get ready for the next day. They would talk about their plans and the future they were building right there. Some nights he'd fall asleep in the chair by the fire, and she would gently cover him with a blanket. The other hands gave them a good-natured ribbing about it, but everyone could see it was the real deal. They just knew they belonged together, a rare find in this tough country. "So when's the wedding?" Rusty asked one morning, his grin a mile wide. When Cole finally asked right, Pete chimed in with a laugh. Cole just smiled, but his eyes told Leah he had something planned. She would know when the time was right. That quiet time ended one morning in the middle of February when a rider came thundering in. His horse was all sweated up from the ride. Leah was just fixing breakfast when she heard the ruckus. She heard Hank's worried voice and Cole shouting orders to the ranch hands. She ran to the window. She saw them all gathering, every man with a rifle, their faces grim. Her heart just dropped. "What in the world is happening?" she called out. Cole broke from the men and rushed over to her. He looked tense. "Buck Lawson. He hit the Morrison Ranch last night, burned their barn, stole half their cattle. He beat up Morrison so bad he might not pull through. The sheriff says Lawson is heading this way." Leah's blood ran cold. "When?" "Could be any minute. The sheriff's posse is still an hour away." Cole grabbed her shoulders, his eyes burning right through her. "Leah, I need you to promise me something. When the shooting starts, you stay in this cookhouse. You lock the doors and you stay down. Don't you come out till I come for you." His voice cracked a little. "Promise me. I can face Lawson if I know you are safe. But if I'm worried about you while I'm fighting him, good men are going to get hurt. So please, Leah, promise." She wanted to argue, to say she could help, but she saw the fear in his eyes was for her, not for himself, and she understood right then. Sometimes love means you have to let someone protect you. "I promise," she whispered, "but Cole, you come on back to me, you hear me? You come back." He gave her a hard, fast kiss. "I will, I swear it." Then he ran back to get ready for the fight. In an hour, the ranch looked like a fort. Hank had men positioned in all the best spots. They were in the barn loft, behind water troughs, and looking out the bunkhouse windows. The few other women on the ranch were sent to the cookhouse with Leah. They were told to stay put. Eli Turner, his shoulder all healed, stood guard right outside. He held his rifle tight. "I'll watch over y'all, Miss Leah," he said, trying to prove himself. "Nobody's getting past me." "I know, Eli. Thank you. Thank God." Leah made herself start preparing food. The men would need to eat, no matter what happened. But her hands just would not stop shaking. Through the window, she watched Cole move among his men, calm and steady. He had become a true leader. The hands all looked to him with trust, but she could see the tension in his shoulders. his hand always near his gun. This was personal for Cole. Buck Lawson was not just another outlaw. He was a ghost from Cole's past, here to destroy everything he had built. The waiting was pure agony. The whole ranch was covered in a blanket of white snow. Leah made coffee and checked her medical supplies. She tried hard not to think about all the bad things that could happen. Then, around noon, the lookout yelled, "Riders coming!" There were at least 15 of them. Leah's heart froze. She ran to the window and saw them, just dark shapes moving against the white snow. They rode in like they expected folks to just roll over. They were about to learn a hard lesson. Buck Lawson was right at the front. He was a big, mean-looking fella with a nasty scar and eyes as cold as a frozen pond. He stopped his horse just out of rifle range, and his voice cut through the cold air. "I'm looking for Colton Prescott. Send him out and nobody else has to get hurt." Hank stepped out, holding his rifle. "Prescott's under our protection, Lawson. The sheriff is on his way. You best ride on out of here while you still can." Lawson just let out a harsh laugh. "You think the law is going to save him? He's a traitor, and I'm here to deliver justice." "The only coward I see here is you," Cole's voice rang out as he came into view. He stood tall and wasn't afraid. "You're just hiding behind revenge because I saw you for what you really are. A thief and a killer who twisted a grieving boy into something he should have never been. You ungrateful whelp." Lawson spurred his horse forward, his hand resting on his gun. "I gave you a family. You gave me a life of crime," Cole said, his voice steady and loud. "You used my pain to make me a criminal. But I am not that boy anymore, Buck. I am not running, and I am not hiding. And I am not letting you hurt anyone else." The air was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Then Lawson's face twisted with pure rage, and he reached for his gun. "Take cover!" Hank roared as the world exploded in gunfire. Leah dropped to the floor. Bullets shattered the windows and slammed into the wooden walls of the house. She could hear men shouting and horses screaming in fear. Through a crack in the window, she saw total chaos. Lawson's men were spread out, firing heavy, but the ranch hands were dug in deep, returning fire with deadly accuracy. Two of Lawson's gang went down in the first minute. Another fell, clutching his leg. And there was Cole moving between the men, calling out orders and keeping the defense tight. He was both magnificent and terrifying to watch. A raider made a run for the cookhouse. Eli fired twice, and the man dropped just 10 feet from the door. "Stay back!" Eli hollered. The battle raged on. Lawson's gang was quickly realizing they had picked a fight they could not win. Lawson's men knew they were beat and started to fall back. But Lawson wasn't quitting. He snuck on foot, moving toward Cole, using the fight as cover. His face was pure malice. Leah saw the whole thing unfold. She screamed a warning, but the gunshots swallowed her words. Lawson aimed his pistol right at Cole's back. Then a single rifle shot cracked from out of nowhere, and Lawson dropped like a stone. It was Sheriff Reynolds. He and his posse came storming into the yard, guns blazing. They got there right in the nick of time. The sheriff's bullet had hit Lawson's shoulder, spinning him around. "Throw down your guns," Reynolds hollered. "You are all surrounded." With their boss down and new lawmen everywhere, the rest of the gang gave up. Just like that, the fighting stopped. A strange quiet fell over the ranch, with only the sounds of the wounded. Forgetting her promise to stay put, Leah burst out of the cookhouse and ran straight for Cole. He heard her coming and turned just in time to catch her as she flew into his arms. They were both shaking something fierce. "You're alive," she cried into his chest. "Thank God." "You too," he said, holding her tight. He buried his face in her hair while the mess was getting sorted out around them. Sheriff Reynolds rounded up the prisoners. They caught 7 men alive, and that included Buck Lawson himself. Lawson was cussing a blue streak, even with that hole in his shoulder. The rest of his boys were done for. The ranch did not get off clean. 3 of the hands were hurt, one of them pretty bad. But by some miracle, nobody was killed. Leah got right to work patching folks up, her hands steady as a rock. Cole stayed by her side, checking on his men. It was young Eli who had caught the worst of it. A bullet had torn a nasty gash along his ribs. It looked bad, but it would not kill him. Leah tended to him first. She cleaned him up while he tried to smile. "Did I do all right, Miss Leah? Did I keep you safe?" "You were so brave, Eli," she said, squeezing his hand. "Your mama would be so proud." By nightfall, things had calmed down. The prisoners were tied up and under guard, and the fallen raiders were loaded onto a wagon. The sheriff stood with Cole, looking pleased. "Well, I reckon that is the last we will hear of the Lawson gang. With him locked up and his crew gone," he said, "this part of the country just got a whole lot safer. And Cole, what you have to say, is going to make sure he never sees daylight again." Cole nodded, but he looked sad. "I do not feel good about it, Sheriff. He was a bad man, but for a time he was family. Even if it was the wrong kind of family." The sheriff nodded. "That says a lot about the man you are today. A smaller man would be celebrating. You just look tired." He clapped Cole's shoulder. "But you are free now, truly free. No more looking over your shoulder. The past cannot touch you anymore. You did what was right. And now it is over." After the sheriff's posse left, a deep quiet finally settled over the ranch. Leia served up a late supper, but the men were too worn out to do much more than eat and head off to bed. Cole helped her clean up in the quiet kitchen, both of them just taking it all in. "It is really over," Leia finally whispered. "Buck Lawson cannot hurt you anymore." "I know," Cole said. "I feel relieved, but also—" He paused, looking for the right word. "Empty, after carrying that weight for so long, now that it is gone. I am not sure what to do with myself." "You live," Leia told him, plain and simple. "You take all that energy, and you build something good. You let yourself be happy and have the life you truly deserve." He pulled her in close, his chin resting on her head. "And what kind of life is that? One full of love, peace, and purpose, where you wake up feeling grateful instead of afraid. Where you can just be Cole, not the boy who made mistakes, but my Cole." "Your Cole," he repeated softly. "I sure do like the sound of that." Standing there by the low fire, Leia felt the very last of her fear finally melt away. In its place was nothing but hope. The worst was behind them, and the future was wide open. As winter finally let go of Wyoming, the ranch began to transform right along with the seasons. The snow gave way to green earth, and the cattle grew healthy and strong once more. They used Cole's money to rebuild the barn, making it stronger than it was before. Cole grew into his role as foreman, earning the respect of every hand on the ranch. The shadow that had followed him for years was gone, leaving a man at peace. Buck Lawson and his men were tried and convicted that April. Lawson was sentenced to hang. Cole went to the trial but chose not to stay for the end. He had already faced his past. He had no desire to watch another man die. "It is done," he told Leia when he returned from town. "The past is finally in the past." "Good," she said with a smile, "because I am much more interested in our future." Cole smiled back, and a lightness filled his eyes that she had never seen. "Funny you should say that. I have some big plans for the future." "Oh, should I be worried?" "Only if you are afraid of being happy." Spring arrived for good, with warm rains that washed the land clean. Wildflowers popped up everywhere, covering the ranch in a blanket of color and new life. Everything felt fresh and full of promise. And on one of those perfect spring evenings, with the sun setting in shades of gold and rose, Cole took her by the hand. "Where are we going?" she laughed, as he gently pulled her away from the cookhouse. "You will see," he grinned. "Just trust me." He led her up toward the old windmill, which stood on the highest point of the ranch. The view from there was simply spectacular. You could see for miles across rolling grasslands, with the ranch looking small and peaceful down below. Cole turned and took both of her hands, his eyes full of a raw emotion that stole her breath. It was a mix of hope and plain old fear. "Leia Hart," he started, his voice a little unsteady. "6 months ago, I showed up at this ranch with a heavy past and a whole lot of shame. I was just surviving from one day to the next, with no real hope for a better life." "Cole," she started to say, but he gave her hands a gentle squeeze. "Please, just let me finish. Then you walked into my life and everything started to change for the better. You gave me a chance when nobody else would, and you saw the good in me. Somehow you loved me, accepting all the broken parts of my past." Tears started to well up in Leia's eyes. "You did the same thing for me, Cole. You helped me remember how to really live. You made me feel hope again." He smiled. "Then let us build a future together." Cole let go of one hand and pulled a simple gold band from his pocket. I know I do not have a lot to offer. I am just a ranch foreman with a complicated history. But my heart is yours, and I promise to love you for all my days. Leah Hart, will you marry me? For a moment, it felt like the whole world went quiet, listening for her answer. The setting sun bathed everything in a beautiful golden glow. Leah looked at this strong, kind man who had pieced her heart back together. Yes, she whispered, her voice thick with happy tears. Yes, Cole Prescott, I will marry you. He jumped to his feet and swept her into a joyful hug, spinning her around under the big sky. When he put her down, he gently slid the perfect fitting ring onto her finger. He kissed her softly. You gave me my life back, he said against her lips. Yes, she repeated, loving the sound of the word. Yes to you, and yes to our future. They stood on that hill as the first stars appeared, two souls who found light in each other. As the windmill spun its steady rhythm, Leah felt a deep sense of peace. She knew this man and this love had made every single past hardship worthwhile. The wedding was held 3 weeks later at the little church in Millbrook. It seemed the entire town came out to celebrate with them, filling every single seat. Sheriff Reynolds and the judge were both in attendance. Hank Donovan proudly stood as Cole's best man. Eli Turner and the other ranch hands sat right up front, grinning from ear to ear. Leah wore a simple cream-colored dress, with lace borrowed from a kind woman in town. She wore no other jewelry besides Cole's ring and her mother's treasured blue shawl. Draped over her shoulders, she looked absolutely beautiful. Cole was waiting in his best suit. It was still ranch-worn, but clean. His eyes were what really caught her attention. They were full of a love so deep it almost took her breath clean away. It was a simple ceremony. The preacher spoke about forgiveness and second chances. He said a marriage was a promise to bring an end to the community. It was a promise to build something that would last. Cole's voice was steady. I, Colton Prescott, take you, Leah Hart, as my wife. I'll love you through good times and bad. I promise to be faithful, to protect you, and to cherish our life together. I'll honor our second chance. You are my home, my heart, and my hope. I swear it before God. Leah's voice trembled, but held strong. I, Leah Hart, take you, Colton Prescott, as my husband. I will love you, support you, and celebrate you. I will always stand with you as your partner and your friend. You are my home, my heart, and my hope, she pledged before them all. The preacher smiled. I now pronounce you man and wife. Cole, you can kiss your bride. He held her face, brushed away her tears, and gave her a tender kiss. The whole church sighed. When they parted, smiling through tears, everyone applauded. Against all odds, they were finally married. The party was at the ranch with enough food to feed half the county. Leah and the other ranch wives had cooked for days, making peas and roasted beef. It was a true feast. As the sun went down, a fiddle and guitar started up. Music filled the air, and folks started dancing in the dirt yard. Cole led Leah out for a waltz right in the middle of it all. He took her in his arms, and they swayed together, a perfect fit. Under the Texas stars, he asked, Happy? More than I ever imagined, she said. She rested her head on his shoulder. I never knew this kind of happiness existed. I thought I'd spend my life alone, but instead I got you. His arms tightened. I am the luckiest man alive, Leah Prescott. She tested her new name. I like it. It sounds like a fresh start. It is for both of us, he agreed. Soon well-wishers cut in. Rusty insisted on a dance, grinning his gap-toothed grin. Then shy Eli asked for a dance, and Leah was touched and happy to oblige. Sheriff Reynolds even took a turn, telling her Cole was a good man who'd surely earned this happiness. As the evening wound down, Leah stepped away for a moment to take it all in. The ranch that was once a refuge was now her home, and the hands had become her family. And the stranger who showed up for coffee was now her partner, her husband, her everything. Life was never going to be perfect. She knew that. There would still be hard times, but there would also be so much joy and the comfort of building a life with someone who truly knew her. Cole appeared right then, slipping his arm around her waist. What are you thinking about, darling? Do you regret any of it? All the trouble and fear I brought to your door? Leah turned and cupped his face in her hands, looking right into his eyes. Cole Prescott, I don't regret a single second, because every bit of it, good and bad, brought us right here, and this is exactly where I want to be." He kissed her. "I love you, Laya." "I love you too, now and always," she replied. As the hour grew late, folks began to leave. They called out their final good wishes as the tired ranch hands headed for the bunkhouse. Hank Donovan shook Cole's hand one last time, telling them both to take the next day off. Finally, Leia and Cole were alone, standing under a blanket of Texas stars. The cookhouse, her domain for 3 years, now belonged to someone else. Hank had given them the small foreman's cabin, newly fixed up and just perfect for them. "Ready to go home?" Cole asked, holding out his hand for her to take. "I've been home since the day I met you," Leia said, taking his hand in hers. "But yes, let's go." They walked through the quiet ranch, past the barn and the corral where their story began. Everything was the same, but different now, knowing they belonged to each other for good. The cabin was cozy, with a beautiful quilt on the bed made by the other ranch wives. It was not much, but it was theirs, a place to start their new life together. Cole lit a lamp, and the room filled with a warm, gentle light. He just looked at her. "I still can't believe you're my wife," he said, his voice full of wonder. "Believe it," she whispered. "This is where I belong, right here with you, building our future." They came together slowly, knowing they had all the time in the world now. There were no more secrets, no more fear, just love and the promise of tomorrow. Outside, the ranch slept peacefully under the starlit sky. And in that small cabin, two people who found each other after the storm began their new life. As the seasons turned in Wyoming, the ranch began to truly prosper under Cole's steady hand and Hank's wisdom. Life found a good, peaceful rhythm, with Laya putting her smarts to use on the books and even teaching the young hands to read. Cole's heart just swelled with pride watching her bloom as they built their new life together, one sunrise at a time. They shared it all, the hard days and the good laughter, knowing they were true partners through and through. Young Eli Turner grew into a fine man under their roof, while Rusty and Pete became the brothers they never had. Old Hank watched them with deep satisfaction and started making plans to leave the whole spread in Cole's capable hands. Their love only deepened as they learned each other's wishes, building their own little traditions, like dancing in the cabin on a Friday night. One late summer evening, sitting on the porch watching the sunset, Cole turned to her and asked, "Are you truly happy, Leia?" She leaned against him, saying she was happier than she ever dreamed, but then he confessed his deepest fear. He worried that he'd wake up one day and find this whole beautiful life was just something he'd imagined while he was on the run. "Oh, it's real," she promised, placing his hand over her heart. "We're real, Cole, and we have got years and years to come." They sat in a comfortable quiet as the stars came out, the whole ranch feeling safe and sound under their watch. After a while, Loya said, "You know, I think we were both lost for a long time. You running from your past, me hiding from my future. But somehow we found each other in the dark." Cole shook his head and said, "Best choice I ever made. Thank you for believing in me." "Thank you," he finished, his voice full of heart, "for seeing me when I felt invisible and for giving me a reason to finally live." Cole turned to Leia and asked softly, "Are you happy, darling, truly happy?" She leaned into him, feeling his steady warmth. "More than I ever dreamed I could be." "Why do you ask?" she murmured. "Because I'm scared I'll wake up and this was all a dream," he admitted, holding her a little tighter. "I just need to know all of this is real." Leia took his hand, placing it over her heart. "Feel that? We're real, Cole, and we're just getting started." "Years and years," he repeated with a smile. "I surely like the sound of that." They sat in a peaceful quiet as the stars began to pop out in the night sky. The ranch settled down for the evening, feeling safe and sound under their watch. "You know what I reckon?" Leia said after a while. "We were both lost for a long time. You were running from your past, and I was hiding from my future. But we found each other, and we chose to find the light together." "Best choice I ever made," Cole said, kissing her temple. "Mine too. Thank you, Laya, for believing in me when I couldn't even believe in myself. You gave me a reason to stop running and finally start living. You reminded me I was more than just my past." She turned to face him in his arms, to look up at him. "We saved each other, Cole. That's just what love does." Under a sky full of stars, they held each other close on that quiet porch. They finally understood that home wasn't a place, but a person. They hadn't found some easy kind of love, but the real kind, the kind that's been tested by fire and proved to be true. Leah Hart came to Lone Ridge Ranch 3 years back with nothing but grit and grief. She'd worked hard and slowly put her life back together in that little cookhouse. Then Cole Prescott appeared 6 months ago, a man running from his own ghosts. But together they built something that neither one could have ever built alone. They finally became whole, finding a home right where they stood. This ranch was theirs now, in every way that truly mattered. It was the future they were building with their own 2 hands. As they went inside, they knew they were ready for whatever came next. Good times or bad, they would face it all side by side. They were two folks who learned that the past does not define who you are. It is the choices you make that do. And choosing love over fear? Well, that choice makes all the difference in the world. Inside their cabin, Leah and Cole slept, wrapped in each other's arms. They were safe, knowing they had found what everybody's looking for. A real, true love that changes everything. And for them, that was more than enough.